The card that changed the landscape of Highlander, Point
Yeah,
Highlander.
hello and welcome to the September 2022 points update. Just going through whether we're putting Passes Oracle to 8 points or not. I don't think we are, but maybe one of you two's updated my slides while I wasn't looking. Hello, Sav, and hello, Kate. How are you today?
G'day, it's a nice afternoon here in Western Australia.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's evening over here, and it's probably a bit more evening-y for Jimbo.
Yeah, very overcast and dusky at the moment, but we haven't had the best weather today. I mean, all of this week it's been raining and whatnot, but we've got a couple of faces on this announcement that we don't typically have with us. Sav is normally in the shadows, busy doing a lot of adult stuff with, being a professor and whatnot. And Kate is a new face to the committee. How have you found being on the committee, Kate? Is it everything you've ever wanted?
It's about what I expected.
Yeah.
Lots of talking and discussing and writing in spreadsheets.
And Sav, how have you found it with new input that we haven't previously had before?
It's been excellent. I think just fresh ideas. It's just a whole great new vibe. I'm really loving it. And obviously tonight we're probably going to see some of those fresh new vibes too.
Yeah,
No foreshadowing.
it's crazy that they decided to scrap the points list and go to 5 points again. That's really well. How about we dive into it and get into our first change for tonight, shall we? All right.
Exciting.
So first on the list we have Time Spiral. -1 points, was one, is now 0. Who wants to talk about why and how and who and what this
So,
means?
Time Spiral has been like a point for a long while now, but modern Highlander in 2022 has maybe eclipsed it a little bit. It's expensive. It requires to have actual lands in play, and people are playing like mystical disputes, lots of red blasts, lots of spell piercers.
Yeah, the interaction is really something different, especially when you factor in cards like Hull Breacher and Narset that, when this card was added to the points list were not even close to a thing. I don't even know if Ubermask was around when this card was first pointed.
Having this card interacted with in any way, shape, or form is the worst feeling ever. It's the end of your turn, if not game. Whether it's spell pierced or red blasted or oh, hull breached. The number of angles of interaction is ridiculous. And yes, the upside of essentially just continuing to go off is very, very high, but the downside is huge. And I remember us talking about depointing this in 2019 for some historical perspective. We talked about it, and then that was the announcement where we put took the point off memory jar, and
Right.
that was the last second bottling out. That was,
Mm.
okay, let's do this. We can do this. Yep, this is going to be a whole new world. And then, oh no, bad things could happen. And then memory jar. Well, no one's going to play this. That's fine. So
Yeah.
I think this is just like the kick in the pants that was needed, and it's gonna enable some interesting stuff. Combos not really seeing much play outside of those pretty um, stock standard looking, highly interactive Passes Oracle plus lots of interaction, or um, the Underworld Breach plus lots of
Mm.
interaction. Yeah, all in
And
combos seem, yeah,
and
a
that's
bit of a
something that's
better
going
for
to be
money.
that's something that's going to be stressed both on this and on the next slide, which we can pop to now. Actually, is that we want to look at diversifying the availability of combo in the format. So let's pop over to the next one here. We have Protein Hulk -1 from 2 down to 1. Of course, you got to mention as well that Flash is 2 points. You don't get Flash and Hulk for 1 point. You get 1 point off the package deal. So we're getting Protein Hulk now 1 point. Because at the moment, the if you want to play combo, you play Oracle, you play Breach. That's the
Mm.
basically the end of the discussion. Flash Hulk had a really strong showing around 2020 when Thassa's Oracle came out as a super compact kill condition. Typically in Protein Hulk you have to play a pile of dead cards that you don't really want to have in your main deck. And Thassa's Oracle, you could go get Thassa's Oracle Spellseeker and kill them on the spot with very few bad cards in your deck. Now Thassa's Oracle has 4 points on it. That kind of that kind of changes the power level of Flash versus 2020.
You can't play Tainted Pact with the Thassa's Oracle. You can't play any of the pointed tutors, and so like maybe you can play Flash Hulk with a different kill or Flash Hulk with Oracle, and it'll actually do something, and it'll be a very different deck to the Breach and normal Thassa's Oracle lists.
I just want to harken back to the Fish Flash deck that did come out in 2020. It also had Oko, Uro, Wishclaw Talisman. It didn't have Scheming Symmetry, but that's a different discussion altogether. Mystic Sanctuary, Gush. Did we point Gush?
We pointed Gush.
Yeah, Gush. It's something like 15 points these days if you were to sleeve up exactly that. So,
and logistics-wise, I really want to see the number of cards in the Flash Hulk combo go down on the number of cards on the list. We've got Flash Hulk, 3 points in total on the list. It would be really nice to kind of have Hulk at 0 and Flash at 3, just to have one fewer card on the list. But Flash at 3, it kind of like stops people doing cool things with Academy Rector and so on. So this has always been a juggling act, this point split, and I really enjoy the fact that we have Flash at a playable 2 if you wanted to try and experiment with Academy Rector, Arena Rector, and those types of things. So maybe this will date poorly because next update, Hulk 0, Flash 3.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting as well, the accessibility point does sort of weigh in on the Flash Hulk deck. Obviously, Time Spiral as a D-pointing, you can't fit that in an 8-point deck. It automatically breaks the rules and costs you a point in that regard. But maybe we'll see some sort of 8-point Flash Hulk, Thassa's Oracle, something. We'll see what comes out, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump to our next change. Yeah, that's right, chat. There's more coming. Next up, we have everyone's favorite Elder Giant, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. +1 was 1, now 2 points.
Oh.
Kate, what do you think about this card?
Uro at 1 was still much too easy to play just everywhere and requires incredibly different answers and to the rest of the decks that were playing it, and will just take over a game. It is like, yes, you can play your Graveyard Hate stuff against it, but then you might still just lose to Delver of Secrets, Dragon's Race Channelers, and it gives like the longevity to these tempo decks, which it really shouldn't have access to for 1 point.
I've got to admit, last time I built a deck, I assumed Uro was 2 points. So I ended up putting together a 6-point list because I that's what I thought, that Uro was 2 points. So here we are. Now that list is able to be played. Well, able to be played correctly, I guess. It also it has a really big effect on aggro in the format. It's a card that aggro just really struggles to get through. Just turn 3, you're not even down a card, you're up tempo, you're up life. It's really rough to beat through if you're in the plan of Curd Ape. Shout out to Mr. Verbal in the chat. This is one of the worst cards imaginable.
It's miserable to play against, right? My goodness, Uro's been a slow burn, hasn't it? Just remember when this was foiled and it's playable, and now it's like, wow, yeah, this is a legitimate 2-point card.
Yeah.
Um, I think this change is a really exciting change from a metagame perspective. When we look at the decks that one, they throw in an Uro because relatively low investment and gives you an incredibly high upside and breaks the nature of your deck. You want to be, a tempo deck, and then you get to play this late game. That's not cool. And the second thing being that, well, I'm going to build a deck. What are my reasons for not being in blue green X? Because Uro is just such a huge draw card. So from a metagame perspective, actually seeing um, colors other than the blue green combination see a little bit more love is going to be really exciting. So that's the thing I'm most excited about.
I mean, you say that, but I'm planning on playing Uro for some time yet.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's a good 2 point card, and it will see play. But yeah, I'm keen to see it get denied from you're on Pima tempo, and
Hmm.
you shouldn't have this late game plan. You have to actually go, I'm going to invest 2 points, which could otherwise be Ragavan and Dreadhorde Arcanist or something
Mm.
else. Yeah, I'm
All right.
excited to see how it changes the meta.
Well, we run a little guessing game to see who's got the most accurate guess of what our points update was going to be. And Billinghurst mentioned 45 minutes ago that there was a change that no one had guessed yet. Do we want to
Mm.
pop over to that one?
I think so. I think that will be a good thing for chat to see.
All right. So the next change on our list is that we're moving the point from Mana Drain to Murktide Regent. Oh boy. I'm excited. I am a huge fan of Mana Drain myself. I had to, it was suggested in our discussions, and I had to hold back because I am really biased. I really like Mana Drain. But what we want to do in this change is entice people to play more lands than 18 in their blue decks. Maybe some colorless pips, perhaps. Something to drain into.
Bring back some 5 drops.
Yeah. So if you look at sort of the premium mana drain decks right now, they're playing not very much to spend colorless mana on. When you look at Rug Tempo, for example, you can spend it on, I guess, Murktide Regent, but that's not going to do much. You could spend it on,
You can spend 1 colorless on your Tarmogoyf.
okay,
Yep.
you can power out your 1/4 drop in Minsk and Boo, but it doesn't help you play your 10 cantrips, 2 baubles, 15 1 drops. And then on the other side of this is Murktide Regent. This is the part that makes a bit more sense, I think. I don't think anyone was surprised to see a point on Murktide Regent. There may be some people that agree or disagree, and we'd love to hear about that. I'm sure the Discord's going to be popping off about every change, and there's going to be lots of discussion, people loving it and hating it, of course. Hey, Kate, get used to the haters. They exist.
um, so, someone chat mentioned that Mana Drain is just a second copy of Counterspell, but like that's not a problem when a lot of the decks are like not don't even play the first Counterspell at the moment. And so, like, yes, this is an upgrade over Counterspell, but if you didn't even want the first Counterspell, the Mana Drain isn't an is like barely an upgrade in those kind of decks, like Tempo or whatever, Rogue Tempo.
Yeah, and Counterspell is not hugely played right now. You're right, and when it is played, it's typically played with Murktide Regent, which leaves these decks point neutral. If they
Yeah,
decide to add Mana Drain. So
Yeah, for the people who are scared that there's a second counterspell in the format, just go look at the play numbers on Spell Pierce, Pyroblast. Look at the counts on those 1 mana or 0 mana interaction spells like Daze. Uh, Counterspell wasn't the problem, but one of the biggest things really is this really big signal that we're trying to send here, that we would like to see, traditional control decks have some portion of the metagame share, which they have been constantly pushed out by this really low curve, and it was just phenomenal at the time of brainstorming this. The first time it was suggested, I thought I can't process this. This is an insane idea. And then every 10 seconds later, I think my idea changed, and then it changed again to the point that if you try and name a card on the points list that directly helps control, and that's actually really quite tricky.
Mm.
And you get to these sacred cows like Mana Drain, which we always really thought was going to be a point on that points list. Sometimes you have to, break that trend to send a message. And if it turns out that the whole metagame changes and everyone goes onto these control decks and control becomes king again, then it could have been the case that it wasn't just the single point, but rather people weren't sleeving up the decks. I don't know if that's going to be the
Mm.
case. It's far more likely that power has been pushed into that one drop, two drop slot over the last 2 years. But either way, a combination of giving people more confidence in control as well as giving control a little bit more power is hopefully going to see a bit more of a shift in that metagame. So I'm excited.
It's worth noting as well that there's a lot of discussion and there's a lot of these Mana Crypt, Ancient Tomb, Chalice of the Void, Trinisphere decks in the past 12 months popping up in the format. And one of the things that they prey on is these sort of Xerox control decks where you play a low land count, a very high cantrip count, a Chalice on one locking out. There's some lists I've seen where it's literally about 24 cards out of the opponent's deck. And maybe a shift to playing slightly larger blue decks can help counteract the rise of Chalice of the Void Ancient Tomb. Or maybe not. Who's to say?
Absolutely.
So that's the final points change for this announcement. Should we check in on the that how do words work? The watch list.
I like the sound of that.
So here's the watch list from 5 months ago. Wow, we had 5 months since the last update. That is a long time.
Yeah.
So our watch list consisted of Uro, Flash Hulk, and True Name Nemesis. We moved on Uro, we moved on Flash Hulk. We have elected to not move on True Name Nemesis at this point in time. The reason being, the majority of threats out of these aggressive blue decks tend to all be answered by a similar class of removal. You've got your Bolt, your Fatal Push, your Swords to Plowshares, your Abrupt Decay. They're all small and they die to an easy class of removal. The exceptions to that being Uro, Murktide, and True Name Nemesis. And we feel that taking the point off True Name Nemesis would stretch that removal in further directions when we're looking to help control, which doesn't really exist right now. As for what is on the watch list, we have a pair of fast mana lands here, Soul Land, Seed of Traders, Ancient Tomb, and Umazawa's Jitte and Limdul's Vault as potential D points in the next update. And any strong feelings on these?
The Ancient Tomb City of Traders have been doing a lot recently, and whether or not that's variants or good pilots or just they're kind of broken is yet to be exactly seen. But gathering information to see is probably, I think, where we should be doing on these soul lands.
Yeah, that's very true. Go
on. Yeah. I think I'm done.
I think that's such an important point is with watch list cards, we get an opportunity to collect those data from the tournament reporting sheet. I forgot the name of what it's actually called. The results reporting, whatever it is. I guess we'll link you to it, right, somewhere. But if it's not on the watch list and is not a point, we don't easily collect those data. However, as long as it's on the watch list, even if it is currently 0 points, people can tick that box when they are reporting their points. The tell us your points form. Um, they essentially tell us, yes, we're playing this soul land. So I think it's going to be interesting to see and exactly which one we move on if we do need to move on them. Is another whole discussion point that has
Absolutely.
many merits either way, and especially with the no reserved list bonus point, um, throws
Hmm.
things into the mix, especially when you've got City of Traitors, which is oft forgotten until you look at its price tag, and then you realize, oh, okay, yeah, that's right, this
Yeah,
is on the reserve list.
that's right. So, as well as letting us get data from the results tool, which we've linked in the chat, and it'll be linked in the VOD afterwards as well. We also get the data from people seeing this and talking about it. So, really, I entice you to uh, speak to your playgroups, chat, build decks, play them, and see how it goes and let us know. Come talk in the Discord, come talk to us on Facebook, come talk to us via email, committee@7ph.com.au, and let us know your feelings, because that's part of the purpose of the watch list, is to see what the wider community thinks. As much as we are 5 people who play a lot of Highlander, there's a lot more than 5 players in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I can see the chat is really active around some of these watch list cards, which is great. Uh, if you if you asked me about Murktide the day that it was printed, I would have said no. That why would you put a point on Blue Tombstalker? I'll
Yep.
go down in history and I'm gonna eat my hat. There's no way I'm not gonna put a point on Blue Tombstalker, and then Tombstalker barely gets played, and then as the weeks and months go by, oh wait a second, oh this is this card is insane. Blue Tombstalker is insane. That's the weird part, right? That even on as printed, if you printed Tombstalker in blue, it will be incredibly good because blue is great.
On the flip side of that, there is definitely some people who very vocally called it when Murktide was printed, maybe a couple of weeks after, said, "Hey, this card is busted. Can we point this card?" And a lot of that, there is a lot of hyperbole when new cards come out, especially win conditions, everything that comes out, people are like, "This card is busted. Can we slap a point on it?" And 99% of the time, the answer is no. Let's wait and let the metagame adjust. And that's the correct approach a lot of the time. This time, apparently, it was not. Which is something we're having to say a lot the last couple of years. Ragavan, Uro, Oko, man.
2019, right? Ever since 2019 is the year in which we go, we could travel back in time. We'll make sure that those things that we think that might be maybe a point, it turns out they're incredibly busted. This is just the way the design has gone.
Yep. All right, so let's go through a quick recap here before we sign off. From the top, we've got Time Spiral, was 1 point, now 0 points. We've got Protean Hulk, was 2 points, now 1 point. We've got Uro, was 1 point, now 2 points. We've got Murktide +1 to 1 and Mana Drain -1 to 0. We've got the watch list with True Name falling off and the other 2 cards acted on it. And we have three-ish new additions to the watch list. That's what we've come to in this wonderful September announcement. The next one is actually only, I want to say, 9 weeks away. MTG Brothers War release date. Is that the next set?
Yes.
November 18. So our next announcement is actually it's a 9 or 10 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's a short one.
So if any of this is super busted, you've got that many weeks to prove it to us.
There are some cool cards in the new set, and we're not going to go wax lyrical about them now, but go and have a look at them. Some cool new threats, some cool, piece of interaction. Yeah, lots of cool stuff.
Maybe there should be a podcast that talks about new spoilers and how cool they would be in Highlander.
Yeah.
That would be a cool
have to
idea.
invent that. I think we need to invent time, and we need to invent some form of time elongating device. I need to
Yeah.
cast time warp.
All right.
Time
I think
stretch would be better.
I think that's it for us. Any closing comments, Kate?
I don't think any for me.
Mine's mainly about the metagame. I'm really excited to see what people do with this. There's a lot going on in this update, and a lot of moving pieces, some of which move together and some of which are completely distinct. I think the metagame itself is going to look really, really cool. So I'm excited to see what people do.
I'm excited to see mana drains.
Yes, more mana drains.
I'm excited to see slightly fewer Murktides, but only slightly.
I'm excited to see some combination of this where there's suddenly heaps of mana drains, and then everyone goes, wait a second, I literally never use the mana off this, and I maybe cast my Tarmogoyf like a little bit cheaper, and I didn't actually need to because I have a land count that only has 19 lands in my deck, and then it starts to get cut, and people go, to double blues are really, really hard, and then all the control decks go, you forgot about us, hey? So it's going to be a roller coaster these next 9 weeks. So I'm just excited to ride along with it.
All right. Well, that'll be us. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you watched it live on the stream or on the official 7 Point Highlander YouTube channel, which this will be one of the first uploads to. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in November for the next one. See you around.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.